At first I thought I was dreaming it. That rough scrape, scrape, scrape against the old wood. Then the low whine that came after. My place was usually quiet at that hour. Too quiet most days. I worked from home doing customer support for a medical equipment company, so I knew every sound the duplex made after the rest of Madison had left for work. The heater clicking, the pipes knocking, the snowplow 3 streets over. Rufus making noise at my back door was not normal. I pulled on a hoodie and opened the door. Claire was standing there, in a winter coat thrown over pajama pants, her hair pulled back badly, like she had done it without looking in a mirror. Rufus was beside her, old and gray around the face, his leash wrapped twice around her wrist. He looked up at me like he had personally arranged the whole thing. Claire's face was pale from the cold, but that was not the part I noticed first. It was the embarrassment. She looked embarrassed to be alive and standing there. "Hey," she said. "Hey, I know it's early." "It's fine." She looked past me into my kitchen, then down at Rufus, then back at the doorframe like she had changed her mind 3 times already. "I can't sit in there," she said. I did not answer right away, because I knew what there meant. Her half of the duplex, the other side of the wall, the house with the flowers on the table, and the foil-covered dishes in the fridge, and the sympathy cards lined up like little judges. Adam's funeral had been the day before. The whole block had been involved in the way blocks get involved when something bad happens, close enough to see from their windows. Cars along the curb, black coats, women carrying pans, men standing with their hands in their pockets, talking in low voices. People hugged Claire like they were trying to hold her in place. I had gone over after the service for maybe 20 minutes, said less than almost everybody, and left when I realized nobody knew what to do except stare at her carefully. Now, she stood at my door in pajamas. "There are flowers everywhere," she said, "and cards. And Adam's cousin left a lasagna on the stove, but nobody covered it right. So now the whole kitchen smells like cheese and lilies." She gave a tiny laugh that had no humor in it. "And my phone won't stop lighting up. People keep saying, 'How are you holding up?' Like there's one good answer." Rufus whined again and nudged my shin. Claire shut her eyes for half a second. "Can I just drink coffee in your kitchen for 10 minutes? I stepped back. "Yeah, come in." She came in like she was afraid the floor might complain. Rufus came in like he paid rent. He went straight to the heater under the window and lowered himself down with an old dog groan. My kitchen was nothing special. Small table, 2 chairs, coffee maker, stack of unopened mail, 1 pan in the sink from eggs the night before. But when Claire sat down, she looked at the plain walls like they were giving her room to breathe. I started the coffee without making a big thing of it. "Regular?" I asked. "Anything. You want food?" "No." Then after a second, "Maybe toast." "No." "Coffee is good." I nodded and got 2 mugs down. One had a faded Badgers logo on it. The other said "World's Okayest Uncle," even though I was not an uncle. It had been a gift from my friend Drew, who thought bad mugs were funny. Claire took the Badgers one when I handed it to her. Her fingers wrapped around it, like she needed the heat more than the coffee. For a while, we did not talk. That was the first thing I think I did right. I did not tell her I was sorry again. I had already said that once, and it had come out as useless as it always does. I did not ask if she needed anything. Everybody had asked that. I just leaned against the counter and drank my coffee, while Rufus breathed heavily by the heater. She looked around after a few minutes and said, "Your kitchen doesn't know." "What?" She touched the side of the mug with her thumb. "It doesn't know what happened." That sounds stupid. No, it doesn't. My kitchen knows. The living room knows. The bedroom really knows. Her jaw tightened on that one. Everywhere in there, something is waiting for me to act right. I pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. "What does acting right look like?" I asked. Claire stared into her mug. Crying more, I guess. Looking more broken. Saying things about how I don't know how I'll go on. She swallowed. I do know how I'll go on. That's the awful part. I kept quiet. She looked at me then, careful, like she expected me to flinch. Our marriage was over, Miles. I knew enough not to react too fast. She gave a small shake of her head. Not officially, not to anybody else. We still bought groceries. We still shoveled the walk. We still asked each other if the car needed gas. But that was it. It had been that for years. Two people being polite in the same house. The coffee maker clicked behind me. Outside, a car rolled slowly past, tires crunching over old snow. Claire kept going, and once she started, it seemed like stopping would be harder. People keep talking about him like he was this huge empty space I'm supposed to fall into, and he was a good man in a lot of ways. He was. I'm not trying to make him smaller. She pressed her lips together. But we were not what people think we were. I get that, I said. She watched me. I added, I don't get all of it, but what you're saying makes sense. That was it. Nothing smart. Nothing deep. Just that. Her eyes got wet, but she did not cry. Somehow, that seemed more painful to look at than actual crying. You're the first person who hasn't tried to fix the sentence, she said. What sentence? When I say I'm not shattered. She looked down again. Everybody wants to edit it. They want me to add yet, or because I'm in shock, or but I loved him so much. They need it to sound better. I turned my mug in my hands. Maybe it doesn't sound better because it's honest. She breathed out slow. Rufus shifted by the heater and gave a tired little huff. Claire looked at him, and for the first time that morning, her face softened. He's been following me from room to room, she said, like he thinks I'm going to disappear too. Maybe he just wants breakfast. That got a real laugh out of her. Small, but real enough that she seemed surprised by it. Then she covered her mouth, like laughing in my kitchen the morning after the funeral broke some rule. I pretended not to notice and stood up. Toast? This time she nodded. Yeah, okay. I made 2 pieces and put butter on them because I did not know what else to do. She ate half of one slowly, picking at the crust. Then she started telling me about the people who had stayed too long the night before. Her aunt rearranging the flowers. Adam's sister, Paula, cleaning the counters like grief had a proper shine. A neighbor from down the street touching Claire's shoulder every time she passed, until Claire wanted to crawl out a window. I know they mean well, she said. Sure, that almost makes it worse. Yeah. She looked at me again. You don't say much. I work customer support. I use up most of my polite sentences by noon. That made her smile into her coffee. 10 minutes turned into 40. Then an hour. My work laptop was still closed on the counter, and I knew I had tickets waiting. A man in Ohio probably wanted to know why his replacement tubing had not arrived. A clinic in Nebraska probably needed a return label. My simple little life was still lined up behind the screen, waiting for me to log in and be useful. But Claire stayed at my table, and I let her. Not because I was noble. I should say that clearly. Part of me liked it. I liked that she had come to my door instead of anyone else's. I liked that my quiet kitchen, the one I usually thought of as empty, had become the one place on the block where she could sit without being watched. That made me feel important in a way I had not felt in a long time. Near 9, her phone buzzed for maybe the 10th time. She glanced at it and turned it face down. Paula, she said. Adam's sister? Yeah. She wants to know if I ate breakfast. I looked at the half piece of toast on the plate. You did. Claire smiled, but it faded fast. She loved him. I know that. She's trying. But when she looks at me, I feel like she's checking for the correct amount of sadness. That sounds exhausting. It is. She rubbed both hands over her face, then stood too quickly, like if she did not leave, right then she might never go back. Rufus lifted his head, but did not get up. "I should go," she said. "You don't have to rush." "I do." She looked toward the shared wall. "Not because I want to. Because if I don't go back now, someone will come looking." I picked up her plate and carried it to the sink. At the door, Rufus moved slowly, making a whole process out of standing. Claire clipped the leash back on, then paused with her hand on the knob. "Thank you," she said. "For coffee? For not making me perform." I did not know what to say to that, so I just nodded. She stepped outside into the cold. The morning light looked flat and gray over the back steps. She crossed the little shared landing to her own door, Rufus beside her, and for a second before she went in, she turned and looked back at me. Not smiling. Not sad exactly. Just looking. Then she disappeared into her half of the duplex. I stood there with my hand still on the door, feeling the cold come in around my bare feet. On the table, her mug sat almost empty. Rufus had left a few gray hairs near the heater. My laptop was still closed. I knew I should clean up, log in, answer messages, go back to the quiet routine I always said I wanted. Instead, I looked at the chair where she had been sitting and had the strange, certain feeling that this had not been a one-time visit. The next morning, I made coffee for 2 before I admitted to myself what I was doing. I stood there in my kitchen, watching the machine spit into the pot, and told myself it was practical. Claire might come by. She might not. Either way, leftover coffee was not a tragedy. That was the kind of weak lie you tell yourself when you already know the truth and just need a few extra minutes to catch up. She did come by, not with a big knock. Just 2 soft taps on the back door, then Rufus's nose pressed against the glass like he was checking whether I had remembered him. Claire stood behind him in jeans, boots, and a gray sweater under the same coat from the day before. She looked more awake, but not better. Better was not the word for any of it. "I brought soup," she said when I opened the door. It was 8:30 in the morning. I looked at the container in her hands. "For breakfast?" "My aunt made 6 of them. I'm moving them out of my fridge before they become part of the house." "That seems reasonable." She stepped inside, and Rufus went straight to the heater again. I had bought dog biscuits the night before at the little grocery store 2 blocks over. I had not planned to mention that part, but Rufus sniffed the air, found the bag on the counter, and stared at me like we had a contract. Claire noticed. "Did you buy those for him?" "No." "Miles." "Yes." For the first time since the funeral, she smiled without looking guilty right after. "He's going to start expecting things from you. He already does." Rufus took the biscuit from my hand with the careful manners of an old gentleman, then dropped crumbs all over the floor. Claire sat at my table while I worked. That became the shape of the week before either of us named it. She did not always talk. Sometimes she brought mail from her side and opened it with a butter knife because she hated using Adam's letter opener. Sometimes she brought Rufus and just sat with one hand on his head while I answered customer emails about missing parts and delayed shipments. My job had always felt boring in a safe way. I liked that problems came in clean little boxes. A pump was late. A filter was wrong. A clinic needed a tracking number. I could fix those things, or at least tell people when they would be fixed. With Claire across the table, all of that felt almost childish, but also helpful. The ordinary noise kept the room from becoming too heavy. Once, while I was on a call, she got up and rinsed her mug without asking. Then, she washed mine too. She moved around my kitchen quietly, not like a guest, and not exactly like she lived there. Something in between. When I hung up, she was folding the dish towel over the oven handle. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know." Then she sat back down. Like that answered everything. By Wednesday, I was making enough coffee for 2 on purpose. By Thursday, Rufus knew which cabinet had the biscuits. By Friday, Claire had started leaving her tea in the back corner of my cabinet because she said my coffee was fine but aggressive. "You're insulting my coffee while hiding from your family in my kitchen," I said. "I contain multitudes. You contain cheap herbal tea. It's calming. It smells like wet grass." She gave me a look over the rim of her mug. "You work customer support in sweatpants. Don't start acting fancy." That was how it went. The good parts anyway. Small, stupid comments. Rufus snoring. The heater working too hard. Her phone buzzing and buzzing until she turned it off and put it face down. But outside my kitchen, the neighborhood was still the neighborhood. People noticed patterns. They noticed Claire crossing the shared back steps. They noticed Rufus pulling toward my door. They noticed my porch light staying on later than usual. Nobody said anything plain at first. They did it the polite way, which was worse. A woman across the street named Mrs. Hanley caught us on one of our walks around the lake path. It was one of those cold Madison afternoons where the sky looked like dirty cotton, and the snow along the sidewalk had turned gray at the edges. Rufus moved slowly, stopping every few yards to inspect the same frozen bushes like they were full of breaking news. Claire had asked me to come because walking alone made her feel too visible. "People wave at me like I'm made of glass," she said as we started down the path. "Or they pretend not to see me, which is somehow louder. So I'm here as what? A decoy? Maybe. I've been called worse." She gave a small laugh, then tucked her hands deeper into her coat pockets. For a while, we walked without talking. The lake was frozen near the shore, pale and rough, with footprints crossing places people probably should not have trusted. Rufus pulled toward a bench, sniffed under it, then decided he was tired and stood there like a statue. Claire looked out over the ice. I keep waiting for the part where I become the person everyone expects. What person? The proper widow. She said it flatly, like she hated the phrase. Quiet, broken, grateful for casseroles, sleeping with one of his shirts or whatever people imagine. You don't owe anybody that. I know. She glanced at me. Knowing doesn't stop me from feeling watched. That was when Mrs. Hanley appeared with her little white dog in a red sweater. She slowed down as soon as she saw us. "Claire," she said softly. Too softly. "It's good to see you getting fresh air." There was nothing wrong with the words. That was the trick. The words were harmless, but her eyes moved from Claire to me and back again, and the pause held the real sentence. Claire's shoulders changed. Not much, just enough that I saw it. "Rufus needed the walk," Claire said. "Of course." Mrs. Hanley smiled at me. "And Miles is helping. That's nice." Nice. She made the word sound like it had quotation marks around it. After she passed, Claire did not say anything for almost a full block. Then she said, "See? Yeah, I hate that I care. Most people care when they're being judged. I'm 36 years old. I should be past caring what a woman with a dog sweater thinks of me." "Red sweater," I said. Pretty bold. Claire snorted, then covered her face with one hand. "Don't make me laugh. I'll feel terrible." "You're allowed to laugh." She looked at me like she wanted to believe that, and did not trust it yet. The bigger problem came 2 days later. It was late afternoon. I had finished work early because a software update had taken half the system down, which meant we could not do much except apologize and wait. Claire was at my place with Rufus, sitting on the couch under one of my blankets, watching an old game show with the sound low. She was not really watching. She just liked having something on that did not ask anything from her. I was in the kitchen heating soup, one of the containers from her fridge. Chicken and rice, I think. Maybe turkey. Everything people brought her looked beige and well-meaning. There was a knock at my back door. Claire froze. Not turned her head. Not sat up. Froze. I looked through the glass and saw Paula. I had only met her twice. Once before Adam passed, and once at the funeral. She had Adam's sharp nose and the kind of neat hair that made you feel like your own life was messy by comparison. She wore a dark wool coat and held her purse tight against her side. Claire stood quickly and smoothed her sweater like she had been caught doing something wrong. I can go out there, I said. No. Her voice came out tight. It's fine. She opened the door. Paula's eyes moved over the room fast. Claire on my side of the duplex. Rufus by my heater. The blanket on my couch. Me standing by the stove with a spoon in my hand like some idiot caught in the middle of a scene he did not understand. Claire, Paula said. Hi. I stopped by your place. You weren't answering. My phone was off. I was worried. I'm next door. Yes, Paula said. I see that. The kitchen felt smaller. I turned the burner off, mostly to have something to do. Paula looked at me then. Miles. Hi, Paula. She gave me the kind of nod people give when they want credit for being civil. Claire stepped onto the small back landing, leaving the door open behind her. Did you need something? I brought some of Adam's photos from Mom's house. I thought you might want to look through them. Paula held up a flat envelope. But maybe now is not a good time. It's okay, I can take them. Paula did not hand them over right away. Her gaze slid past Claire again, into my kitchen. It has not been very long, she said. Quiet, controlled. Sharp enough anyway. Claire's face changed color. Paula, I'm not saying anything. You are. Paula's mouth tightened. I'm saying people care about you. And about Adam. That's all. No, Claire said, but the word came out tired instead of strong. That is not all. For a second, I thought Paula might argue right there on the back steps. Instead, she handed over the envelope. I'll call you tomorrow, she said. Claire did not answer. Paula walked down the steps carefully, crossed the narrow strip of snow between the garages, and went around toward the front. Claire stood with the envelope in her hands until Rufus barked once from inside, impatient and old. When she came back in, she did not sit on the couch. She went to the kitchen table and placed the envelope there without opening it. I should go, she said. You don't have to. She's right. I leaned back against the counter. About what? Claire looked at the floor. It hasn't been very long. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. She thinks it does. What do you think? She let out a breath and sat down hard in the chair. I don't know. That answer scared me more than I expected. I sat across from her, leaving the soup untouched on the stove. Rufus came over and rested his chin on her knee. She put one hand on his head. After a minute, she asked, What is this? I knew what she meant. Not soup, not coffee, not dog walks. This. The table between us. Her tea in my cabinet. My blanket around her shoulders 10 minutes earlier. The way I listened for her steps now. The way she came over without texting first. I don't know, I said. She nodded like she had expected that, but it still hurt to hear. I feel normal here, she said. Not happy. Not exactly. Just less trapped. She rubbed Rufus's ear between her fingers. And that makes me want to come here. Then I feel guilty for wanting anything. I like having you here, I said. The words came out before I had cleaned them up. Claire looked at me. I could have softened it, made it friendly. Said I meant because the house was too quiet, because Rufus was good company, because she needed somewhere to sit. But I did not. I like it, I said again. That's probably selfish. Her eyes stayed on mine for a second too long. Then she looked away. I need to sleep in my own room tonight, she said. The change was so sudden I almost missed the fear underneath it. Okay! I haven't. Not really. I've been on the couch, or falling asleep with the TV on. Last night I stayed in the guest room and woke up at 3 because Paula had texted me a picture of Adam from high school. She pressed her fingers to her forehead. I can't keep moving around my own house like it belongs to someone else. That makes sense. She gave me a tired smile. There you go again. What? Saying the one thing that doesn't make me feel cornered. I did not know how to answer. She stood and picked up the photo envelope. Rufus rose slowly, unhappy with the change in plans. At the door, Claire paused, one hand on the leash, one hand on the knob. "If I don't come by tomorrow," she said, "it's not because I don't want to." "I know." She nodded, but neither of us moved for a second. Then she stepped outside with Rufus and crossed back to her door. I watched her go, and for the first time since she had started coming over, my kitchen felt wrong after she left. Not quiet. I was used to quiet. Empty. I heard her knock just after midnight. It was not a normal knock, not the kind people use when they expect to be answered. It was soft, almost careful, like Claire was hoping I would somehow hear it, and not hear it at the same time. I had been awake anyway. After she left that evening, I tried to do what I usually did. I washed the mugs. I answered 2 late customer tickets. I put a frozen pizza in the oven and forgot it long enough that the edges went dark. Then I sat on the couch with the TV on and listened to the silence on the other side of the wall. That was the problem with a duplex. You learn the shape of another person's life, whether you wanted to or not. A cabinet closing, a dog moving around, a slow footstep. That night, I heard almost nothing from Claire's side, and somehow that was worse. When the knock came, I was at the door before I had time to think. Claire stood on the back steps in sweatpants, a thick sweater, and winter boots without socks. Rufus was not with her. Her hair was down, tucked behind one ear, and she had that same embarrassed look from the first morning, except now there was something raw under it. "I tried," she said. I stepped back. "Come in." She stayed where she was. "I'm not asking to sit in the kitchen this time." "Okay. I can't sleep in that room." Her voice was steady, but barely. I got in the bed. I turned the light off. I lasted maybe 8 minutes. I opened the door wider. She looked past me toward the hallway. "Can I use your spare room? Just tonight. I don't want to be dramatic. I just need a door between me and that room." "Yeah," I said. "Of course." She came in fast then, like if she waited another second she would change her mind. I gave her a clean towel and an extra blanket. The spare room was really just a small office, with a futon, a bookshelf, and boxes I had never unpacked after moving in 2 years earlier. She stood in the doorway and looked at it like it was a hotel room in another country. "I know it's not much," I said. "It's perfect." I almost laughed because nobody had ever called that room perfect, but she meant it. It did not know Adam. It did not hold his charger on the nightstand, or his shirts in the closet. It did not have the dent of his head in the pillow. It was just a plain room with a futon and a lamp that buzzed if you tapped it wrong. I left her there and went back to the couch. I did not sleep much. Not because anything happened. Nothing happened. That was the strange part. We were separated by one thin wall and a hallway, both pretending the arrangement was simple. At some point around 2, I heard her get up for water. At 6, I found her in the kitchen, making tea in the dark. "You scared me," I said. She turned with both hands around the mug. "Sorry. You don't have to stand in the dark. I didn't want to wake you. You're allowed to turn on a light in my kitchen." She looked down at the mug. "That sounds like a bigger sentence than you meant it to be." I leaned against the counter, tired enough to be honest. Maybe it is. After that night, the line moved. Not all at once, not in some big speech. It moved in small, ordinary ways that were harder to defend. Claire stayed in the spare room twice the next week, then 3 times. Rufus started spending whole afternoons by my back door because he knew I kept biscuits in the cabinet. Claire brought over a box of tea and left it next to my coffee filters. I bought a softer blanket for the couch and told myself it had been on sale, which was only half true. I started knowing her routines. If she came in and took off her coat right away, she was staying a while. If she kept it on, she was fighting the urge to run back before someone noticed. If she stirred her tea too long, Paula had called. If she rubbed the inside of her wrist, she had been sorting something of Adam's and did not want to say so yet. And she started knowing me too. One afternoon, after a rough call with a clinic manager who acted like I had personally packed the wrong part, I shut my laptop harder than I meant to. Claire was at the sink, rinsing Rufus's bowl. "Bad one?" she asked. "Just a guy who thinks yelling makes shipping faster." She dried her hands. "You do this thing after bad calls." "What thing?" "You press your thumb into your eyebrow, like you're trying to erase yourself." "I do not." "You just did." I wanted to argue, but she smiled at me, and the room went quiet in a way that felt different from before. That was the part I did not know what to do with. I liked being seen by her. I liked that she reached for my mugs without asking. I liked finding her hair tie on the side table. I liked Rufus sleeping near my heater, like my house had passed some private test. And underneath all that, I liked being needed. That was not pretty, but it was true. Then came Adam's office. Claire asked me on a Sunday afternoon. The sky was low and gray, and the snow outside had started melting into ugly piles along the curb. "I need to sort some papers," she said from my kitchen table. "Insurance things, accounts. I don't know what half of it is." "You want help?" She nodded, but she did not look at me. Just to keep me from throwing everything into a garbage bag. So I went next door. Her house felt different from mine, even though the layout was almost the same. Same narrow hallway, same kitchen window facing the garages, same old floorboards, but every surface on her side seemed crowded. Flowers losing petals. Cards stacked on the counter. Dishes people had brought and never picked up. The air smelled like dust, old coffee, and too many scented candles trying to cover something they could not cover. Adam's office was at the front of the house. It looked like a man had stepped out for lunch and planned to come back. Charging cable hanging from the desk. Half-full water glass. A sweatshirt on the chair. Receipts in a tray. A little plastic cup full of screws and coins and dead batteries. Claire stood in the doorway for a long second. "I hate this room," she said. "We can do another day." "No, today." We started with the easy stuff. Bills, manuals, tax forms. I made piles on the floor while she sat at the desk and opened drawers. Every now and then she would hand me something and say, "Keep," or "trash," or "I don't know." Her voice stayed flat, like she was reading labels. Then I found the folder. It was tucked under a stack of printer paper. Plain blue folder. Nothing written on the tab. Inside were printed apartment listings, a handwritten budget, a list of account numbers, and a draft email addressed to a lawyer. Not sent. Just printed, with a few lines crossed out. At first I thought it had been Adam's. Then I saw Claire's name in the email. I looked up. She saw my face and knew. I did not say anything. I just held the folder out. Claire took it, opened it, and sat back slowly. "Oh," she said. The room felt smaller. "I forgot that was in here. You were looking for apartments?" She closed the folder, but kept both hands on top of it. "Before everything happened." "How long before?" "A month, maybe 6 weeks." I nodded, though I did not know what I was nodding to. She looked at me then, defensive already. I was going to leave. The words landed harder than I expected. "I thought you said the marriage was over," I said. "It was." "I know, but this is different." "Yes," she said. "It is." I stood there with a stack of old receipts in my hand, feeling stupid and late to a conversation I had not known we were having. "So you already had a door out," I said. Her eyes narrowed a little. "That's not fair." "Maybe not." "I didn't plan what happened." "I didn't say you did." "But you're thinking something." I put the receipts down. "I'm thinking I don't know what I am in this." Claire looked away. I hated how quiet she got. I hated that part of me wanted her to reassure me right away, to tell me I was not just convenient, not just the neighbor with coffee and a spare room and a dog biscuit cabinet. I came to you because I couldn't breathe in here, she said. I know, and because you didn't make me feel wrong. I know that too. Then what are you asking me? I'm asking if I'm actually me to you, I said, or if I'm just the nearest exit. Write in the comments. Was Miles right to ask if Claire truly wanted him, or was he making her grief harder by needing an answer too soon? Her face changed like I had put my hand on a bruise. That's ugly, she said. Yeah. And you think I haven't asked myself that? I did not answer. She stood, still holding the folder. You think I don't lie awake wondering if I'm using you? If I like your kitchen because it's yours or because it isn't mine? You think I feel clean about any of this? I didn't say that. No, you just waited until you found paper proof that I wanted out of my own life before you said what you were already afraid of. That one hit because it was true. I rubbed my face. Claire, I'm not trying to accuse you. But you are. I'm scared, I said, louder than I meant to. She went still. I lowered my voice. I'm scared because I like this. I like you being there. I like making coffee for two. I like Rufus acting like my place is his place. I like all of it. And I don't know if I'm building something real or just standing in the open door while you run through it. For a moment, neither of us moved. Outside, a car passed slowly, headlights sliding across the office wall. Claire looked down at the folder in her hands. Maybe I need to do the hard part without hiding in your house. I felt the panic before I had words for it. That's not what I'm asking. Maybe it's what I'm answering. She set the folder on the desk. Her hand shook a little, but her voice did not. I need to know I can stand in this house without you being the only reason, and you need to know it too. Then she walked past me into the hall. I stayed in Adam's office, surrounded by bills and old chargers and the plan she had made before everything changed. For the first time, I understood that if Claire and I became anything real, it could not be because my kitchen was easier than her bedroom. It could not be built only on escape. For the next few days, Claire did not come over in the morning. That was how I knew she meant it. The first day, I made coffee for two out of habit, then stood there feeling stupid while the second mug sat empty on the table. Rufus did not scratch at the door. Claire's tea stayed in my cabinet. Her blanket stayed folded over the back of my couch, exactly where she had left it. I told myself not to watch her side of the duplex, then watched anyway. Around noon, I saw her come out with Rufus. She had her hair tied back, a black coat zipped to her chin, and a trash bag in one hand. She dropped it in the bin, then stood there for a second, with both hands on the lid like she needed to breathe before going back inside. I almost opened my door. I didn't. That was harder than I expected. I had gotten used to being useful. Too used to it. When Claire had needed coffee, I made coffee. When she needed quiet, I gave her quiet. When Rufus wanted biscuits, I bought the expensive kind with the little picture of a golden retriever on the bag, even though Rufus was not a golden retriever and probably did not care. Now she was doing the hard part alone, and my job was to not turn that into proof she did not need me. The second day, a locksmith came by. I watched from my kitchen window while he changed the back lock on her door. Claire stood beside him with her arms crossed, nodding as he explained something. Paula's car pulled up halfway through. I knew it was Paula's because she parked like she was arriving at a meeting, perfectly straight, no wasted movement. I could not hear them through the glass, but I saw enough. Paula got out carrying a small box. Claire stayed on the back steps. Paula held the box out, then said something that made Claire's shoulders go tight. Before, Claire would have looked down. She would have folded into that small, guilty shape. This time she didn't. She took the box, set it on the step beside her, and said something back. Not loud, Not dramatic, just steady. Paula's face changed. She looked over toward my side of the duplex, and for 1 second I thought she saw me at the window. I stepped back like a kid caught spying. Later that afternoon, Claire texted me, "Can you help move one box to the basement? Just one. I don't want company." I stared at the message for longer than I should have. Then I wrote back, "Yeah." When I went over, she met me at the door before I could knock. Her house looked different already. Not clean exactly, not fixed, but less crowded. The dead flowers were gone. The sympathy cards had been gathered into one basket instead of spread across every surface. The kitchen window was open a crack, even though it was cold. The box sat in the hall. Adam's winter boots were on top. Claire saw me looking. "Basement shelf," she said. "Not garbage, not shrine, just shelf." "Okay." I carried it downstairs while she stayed at the top with Rufus. The basement smelled like laundry soap and old concrete. I put the box where she pointed, then came back up. She did not invite me to sit. She did not ask for coffee. She held the door open, tired, but upright. "Thank you," she said. "You okay?" "No," she said. Then after a second, "But I'm handling it." I nodded. "Yeah, you are." Something passed between us then, quiet and uncomfortable, and better than comfort. On the third day, she met with the estate lawyer. I knew because a woman in a navy coat came to the front door with a leather bag, and Claire let her in without hesitation. Rufus barked twice, then stopped. For 2 hours, I heard muffled voices through the wall. Papers moving, a chair scraping. Once, Claire's voice lifted, then lowered again. After the lawyer left, Claire opened every window on the first floor. It was below freezing, but she did it anyway. That evening, I was taking out recycling when Paula came by again. I was halfway down my steps with a cardboard box in my hands when I heard her voice from Claire's porch. "People are talking, Claire." I froze, which was not my proudest moment. Claire was standing in her doorway, one hand on the frame. She looked exhausted. No makeup. Sleeves pushed up. Dust on one knee of her jeans. "People were always going to talk," she said. Paula lowered her voice, but not enough. "You understand how it looks." "Yes," Claire said. "I understand that everyone keeps using that word like it matters more than what is true. I'm trying to protect you." "No," Claire said. "You're trying to protect a version of Adam and me that made sense to you." Paula went quiet. Claire kept going, and I could hear the effort in every word. "I cared about your brother. I lived with him. I sat in the hospital room. I signed papers. I picked clothes for the service. I did all of that. But I am done arranging my face and my house and my life so the street feels comfortable." The cardboard box in my hands bent under my fingers. Paula said something I could not catch. Claire answered, "Miles is not the reason I wanted out of my marriage, and he is not the reason I'm still standing. But yes, I care about him. You can judge that if you need to." I looked down at the recycling bin like it had suddenly become very interesting. Paula left a minute later. She passed me without speaking. I gave her the smallest nod known to mankind, and she ignored it completely. Claire looked over at me from her doorway. I expected embarrassment. I expected her to retreat. Instead, she just said, "Your box is collapsing." I looked at my hands. She was right. A pile of flattened cereal boxes slid onto the snow between my boots. For some reason, we both laughed. Not hard, not long, but enough. Then she went back inside. That night, my kitchen felt quiet again, but not empty in the same way. There was a difference now. Before, I had been waiting for her to need me. Now, I was waiting to see what she would choose when needing was not the whole story. 3 nights after the argument in Adam's office, the knock came. It was not midnight this time. It was just after 7. I had finished work, eaten a bad sandwich over the sink, and started cleaning the counter for no reason. Rufus barked once before I got to the door, like he was announcing himself. Claire stood on the back steps with his leash in one hand and a small overnight bag in the other. For a second, neither of us spoke. She looked different, not happier exactly, but clearer, like the noise around her had backed up a few feet. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Rufus pushed his nose against the door, impatient. I opened it, but I did not step aside yet. "You okay?" She nodded. "I slept in my own room last night." That hit me harder than I expected. The whole night? Most of it. I woke up at 4, but I stayed. She glanced down at the bag, then back at me. I sorted the office. I met with the lawyer. I moved his clothes out of the closet. Not all of them. Enough. I changed the lock because I wanted one thing in that house to feel like mine. I listened without interrupting. "And Paula came by," she said. "I didn't fold. I heard some of that." I figured. Her mouth twitched a little. "The recycling performance gave you away." "Not my best work." "No." Rufus barked again, annoyed that humans were still blocking the warm house. Claire's fingers tightened around the handle of the overnight bag. "I can stay there now," she said. "That's what I'm trying to tell you. I can sit in that kitchen. I can sleep in that room. I can look at the papers and the photos and all of it. I don't like it, but I can do it." My chest felt tight. "Okay," I said. "So I'm not here because I can't make it through the night." She looked me right in the face then. No hiding. No soft escape route. No pretending the bag meant less than it did. "I made it through," she said. "And afterward, this is where I wanted to be." I had imagined a lot of things over those 3 days. Smart things, I might say. Careful things. Mature things. What came out was simple. "With me?" Claire nodded. "Yes, with you." The cold moved around us on the steps. Rufus sighed like we were both hopeless. I opened the door wider. Claire came in slowly, not like the first morning when she had been escaping flowers and cards and everyone else's eyes. Not like the night she needed the spare room. This time she stepped inside like she had decided something before she knocked. Rufus walked past me, straight to the heater, and dropped down with the confidence of a dog who had never respected property lines. Claire set her bag by the wall. She took off her coat and hung it on the back of one of my chairs. Then she went to the cabinet, took down her tea, and filled the kettle at my sink. I stood there watching her in my kitchen. The same small kitchen, same old table, same heater, same ordinary light over the stove, but it did not feel like refuge now. It felt like she had finally stopped hiding.